trafficking is the trade of the humans for the purpose of sexual slavery, commercial sexual exploitation for the trafficker, sales of human organs, and others. Human trafficking happens within a country or transnationality. In addition, human trafficking is something that is illegal because it forces and tortures a person to do anything involuntarily for their benefits.
So here are some examples of cases in human trafficking. First is organ trafficking. Organ trafficking or organ trade can be defined as the trading or the sale and purchase of human organs, tissues or other body products, usually for transplantation. According to the World Health Organization (WHO), trafficking of organs is a commercial transplant where there is a reward and profit, or transplants that occur outside of the national medical systems. In the case of illegal organ trade, it usually occurs in three categories, which is 1. It can happen when the traffickers trick the victims into giving up an organ. Due to the financial problems, there are those who voluntarily sell their organs, but some, however, are manipulated or tricked into selling them. 2. Victims are cheated because they are not paid for the organ or are paid less than the promised price. Those that target the poor and vulnerable are called brokers. These brokers employ and coerce individuals to sell their organs, leaving many without the promised fee or significant health complications. And 3. Vulnerable persons are treated for a non-existent illness, then their organs have been removed without their knowledge. Next is syndicate soliciting donations from foreigners. Malaysia is also overwhelmed with donors from Pakistan, Afghanistan, Kashmir and Thailand who are reportedly contributing to unfinished madrasas or mosques run by corrupt syndicates. Waqf Al-Quran and orphans are also the source of their manipulation. They use false documents from different offices including PERKIM, NGOs, letters of approval from legislators, as well as anybody who is supposedly allowed to grant permission, already abusing the visit pass. They are able to collect up to Rm 15,000 a month per person or an average Rm 500 a day at restaurants or night markets from morning to night. And they will go to a local mosque or surau to collect donations when the time comes for prayers. Slavery is an extreme form of labor exploitation, where it does not matter with the types of gender, ages, races and culture, whether it is women, men or even children, where they will be recruited or acquired and they are being forced to do some work that they did not wish for by force, fraud and violence. Being a maid that being convicted by traffickers with the promise of welfare is being alive. Traffickers who sell the maids with force to work with them or to people who want to use maid can be dangerous, since the chance of abuse and force to work long hours with little sleep and food is high, and there are a lot of examples of cases with the pain story. What is child trafficking? Child trafficking is the recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring or receipt of a child for the purpose of exploitation. A child is anyone under the age of 18 years old that becomes the hot target for kidnapping, or buying a child from poor family is the way for traffickers to use and sell them to sex market. Children are especially vulnerable to being trafficked because they are often uneducated, easy to overpower and easy to convince. Traffickers prey on children and young people to meet the sexual demands of pedophiles and people who pay for sex. Next, the definition for prostitution is threat or use of force, coercion, abduction, fraud, deception, abuse of power or vulnerability, or giving payments or benefits to a person in control of the victim. The purpose of it is prostitution of others, sexual exploitation, forced labor or services, or slavery. For example, if a boyfriend or husband tells his partner that he will post inappropriate photos unless the partner performs sex acts for money, that is sex trafficking. You're not willing to doing sex but being forced to.
Hi and Assalamualaikum, my name is Putri Nurul Rauda and I will present the topic of statistic, data and reports for human trafficking. The annual Trafficking in Person reports review the activities of governments around the world in their effort to fight human trafficking, ranks them accordingly, and provides the data needed for them to improve effort, increase prosecution of traffickers, and provide the necessary protection for the victims. In short, an impetus to governments to eradicate this heinous crime. As you can see in the 2020, the government of Malaysia does not fully meet the minimum standard for the elimination of human trafficking, but are making significant effort to do so. Malaysia was granted waiver per the Trafficking Victim Protection Act from an otherwise required downgrade to Tier 3 in 2014, Tier 2 in 2017. Therefore, Malaysia remained on Tier 2 WL for the third consecutive year on 2018, 19 and 20. So what is Tier 2 WL? According to the State Department's definitions, among that are placed on Tier 2 WL is the watch list. If they do not fully meet the TVPS minimum standard but are making significant effort to bring themselves into compliance with those standards. TVPS minimum standard is the Trafficking Victim Protection Act of 2000 is the first comprehensive federal law to address trafficking in persons. This effort includes identifying more victims than the previous reporting period, increasing the number of trafficking specialists, prosecutors, drafting victim identification standard operating procedures (SOPs). However, the government did not demonstrate the overall increasing effort compared to the previous year.
My name is Yusaraya Srimenti Zakaria. I am going to present about impact of human trafficking. Number 1. Impact to economy. The world remains affected by thousands of cases of human trafficking annually, despite Malaysia's recent rise in prosperity. In neighboring nations, a lack of opportunities for economic development causes many people to enter criminal networks that traffic young girls and women for sexual exploitation. Inconsistent law and incomplete data make it impossible to interrupt this network, as well as in border with Thailand, Philippines, and Indonesia. The location of Malaysia near the ocean make the country strategic for human trafficking transactions. Malaysia is both a destination and a country from which many victims for sex trafficking must pass. The study also found that this crime has a negative impact on human safety in terms of personal community, economy, and health. It also has a negative impact on national security in terms of autonomy, borders, and increased crime rates. In addition, the study also shows the globalization and advanced technology as well as the changing process of syndicate change the difficult in fighting this violence. Next, social or society. The social impact of human trafficking is universal. Some who have truly experienced human trafficking will have the ability to suffer from HIV and AIDS, which can affect any and all of the population. An individual who has experienced inhuman trafficking will have a life worse than death itself. The conditions they are forced to work in the sex club are terrible. Victims of human trafficking have almost no freedom and suffer abuses such as rape, poverty, and torture. This kind of situation also contributes to trauma. With that in mind, it can be understood how these people feel a need to escape. Since human trafficking being involved selling a person for sex, pregnancy is expected. It forces those who are pregnant to have abortion. With unclean instruments by non-certified doctors, this shortage of hygiene is one of the many factors in the spread of HIV in the world. Lastly, people impact, victim, which is lack of independent life skills. Many victims of trafficking lack advanced education and the resources required to survive independently. They do not recognize the rules of the nation where they now live. They may have been trafficked at a young age and have been unable to attend school or to go to college. After being restricted to the same position for a long time and not being able to learn new things, when the time comes, they may have hard time surviving on their own. Second, people impact for the trafficker, which is labor cheap. Traffickers are using manipulation to attract workers to work with them. They may offer a healthy working atmosphere and equal wages. In fact, workers are often forced to work long hard hours with little or no pay. Employers may persuade their workers to continue working with them and to stay silent by using threats or abuse.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Nurainin Sofia Binti Arif. So today I will present more about how to prevent human trafficking in Malaysia. For the first rule is from the medias. For example, most of them are not very realize that they have been doing a human trafficking. They have been doing it for ages and thinking it is actually something that is normal for them. So by having the media create a lot more documentary films about human trafficking, it can also create awareness and also changing their perception about what they have been doing is not normal and actually it is a human trafficking. Second, as a university college students, you can also join or establish a new club to create awareness about human trafficking. You can also make a request to include the human trafficking as in your curriculum. It's very important for the university to take action to create more awareness among the students because most of the victims are coming from the students. Have you guys ever heard about a human trafficking organization? I bet you don't. So you can also help to prevent the human trafficking by organize a fundraiser or donate to help the human trafficking organization because most of the organization will help the victim and also making a lot of campaign to create more awareness. So as someone, you can also give them money, not always money, but also you can help them by giving your energies.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Iza binti Muhammad Nasir. So I will explain the conclusion for human trafficking. Firstly, the government should take better action to prevent human trafficking as it has made the victims. For example, from Indonesia, Nigeria and Bangladesh had often been deceived about their future in their destination countries. Secondly, many had hoped that their life in Malaysia will be better than the life they left behind. But once they had been trafficked, they could not escape because traffickers colluded with corrupt law enforcement officials to keep the women enslaved. Thirdly, even though the victim had been coerced into prostitution, they were stigmatized for engaging in such work. Human trafficking does not make the victims physically abused, but also mental abuse. Thank you.